In the recognitions of Clement, there is a prophecy of the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. Now, this prophecy is found in Book 3, Chapter 61 of the Latin translation. Now, the original Greek has actually been lost. However, this passage is found in the Latin and Syriac translation. The Syriac for this passage actually has a variant, so we'll be looking at the Latin translation. Now, remember that the Latin and Syriac translations were both made pre-Islamically. So here's the prophecy. Peter is speaking in this prophecy. He is a disciple of Jesus, of course, and he says, "The 10 pairs of which we have spoken have therefore been assigned to this world from the beginning of time. Cain and Abel were one pair. The second was the giants and Noah. The third, Pharaoh and Abraham. The fourth, the Philistines and Isaac. The fifth, Esau and Jacob. The sixth, the magicians and Moses the lawgiver. The seventh, the tempter and the Son of Man. The eighth, Simon and I Peter. The ninth, all nations and he who shall be sent to sow the word among the nations. The 10th, Antichrist and Christ." And notice that pair 9 clearly foretells the coming of a prophet who will preach the word of God to the Gentiles. Quote, "The ninth, all nations and he who shall be sent to sow the word among the nations." So who does this fit? It fits Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, who was sent to all mankind. Also notice the prophecy clearly foretells the coming of one specific individual who will do this, one specific individual who will sow the seed among the nations. It says, "He who shall be sent to sow the word among the nations." It doesn't speak about Christian preachers in general spreading the gospel. Rather, there is a specific individual in mind here. Just like in the previous pairs, we have Moses, Abraham, and Christ spoken of as individuals. Here we have a specific individual who will be sent to the Gentiles, and this matches Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. Also, notice that the figure is clearly a righteous figure, because in the 9th pair, he is the second one to be mentioned. So if you notice, in each pair, the second one to be mentioned is actually righteous. So for example, in pair 10, you have first the Antichrist, and then Christ. Notice the second one to be mentioned, Christ, is righteous. Similarly, in pair 6, you first have the magicians, then you have Moses. So the second one to be mentioned is righteous. And also here, you first have the nations that are mentioned. Why? Because the nations before were idolaters. And then you have the one who will be sent to sow the word among the nations. And this, of course, is fulfilled in the fact that Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam came to the nations who were previously misguided, and he taught them Islam. Also, keep in mind that this figure comes after Peter and Simon, because Peter and Simon are pair 8. So this is very significant because Simon in this literature actually represents Paul. So the prophet to the Gentiles here cannot be Paul. Rather, this is an individual who comes after Simon and after Peter, meaning after Paul and after the disciples of Jesus, such as Peter. Also, note that this figure comes after Jesus' first coming. And we know that because Jesus' first coming is represented in pair 7, quote, "The tempter and the Son of Man." At the same time, this figure comes before the return of Jesus. Why? Because the return of Jesus is represented in pair 10, quote, "The Antichrist and Christ." So this perfectly matches the timeline of the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam's coming, because he came after Jesus' first coming, but of course before the return of Jesus. And when it says that he will sow the word among the nations, this refers to him preaching the word of God among the nations. And we know this because Jesus uses this metaphor for his preaching, for example, in Matthew 13, where Jesus compares his preaching to a sower who sows the seed, and he says this as a parable, and then the parable is explained. So this idea of the seed being sowed, it represents preaching, it represents the word of God being preached to the people. And so similarly, you can actually see that in Bukhari, the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam gives a similar parable, according to which the guidance and knowledge that he came with is like rain that falls on the earth. And so some of it falls on fertile soil, and hence vegetation grows forth. And you can read the parable in full here. So based on this, we can tell that the seed that this figure will sow among the Gentiles, this was fulfilled in the Quran, the word of God that Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam sowed among the nations. وَإِذْ قَالَ عِيسَى بْنُ مَرْيَمَ يَا بَنِي إِسْرَائِيلَ إِنِّي رَسُولُ اللَّهِ إِلَيْكُمْ مُصَدِّقًا لِمَا بَيْنَ يَدَيَّ مِنَ التَّوْرَاةِ وَمُبَشِّرًا بِرَسُولٍ يَأْتِي من بعد اسمه أحمد فلما جاءهم بالبينات قالوا هذا سحر مبين. Now remember, I spoke of the Syriac having a variant in this passage. Well, inshallah, in a future video, we'll actually break down the textual criticism issues regarding this passage. However, it is sufficient to realize that this prophecy is found in the Latin text, and of course this Latin translation was made pre-Islamically.